but he remains silent. While trying to loosen her bindings, she notices that Ben has thoroughly researched her past using the Ranger's logbook. He brings up Tommy's tragic death on the mountain, noting that Tommy was a highly experienced climber and that his fatal fall didn't make much sense. Sasha, spotting a heavy iron bar near her feet, slowly tries to reach for it while insisting it was just an unfortunate accident. But Ben catches her movement. Without hesitation, he violently shoves her off the boat into the rushing river. He ties her chain to the back of the boat, brutally dragging her through the water until they reach a quiet, hidden gorge. Ben hauls a choking Sasha out of the water and hands her climbing gear. Bound to him by a rope, she is forced to rappel down with him deep into a dark subterranean cave system. They wade through waist-deep water until Ben drags her onto a dry rock ledge. Sasha looks up and is paralyzed with absolute mind-shattering terror. Hanging from the ceiling of the cave are dozens of mutilated human corpses. Ben drags her further into his slaughterhouse, casually explaining that some ancient tribes believed a hunter must consume the liver of their prey to capture its spirit. He points out the gruesome, butchered remains of the missing family from the video. Looking around the bloody cavern, Sasha sees rows of packaged Geno's beef jerky. The horrifying realization hits her like a physical blow. The jerky he sells at the supermarket is made entirely from human flesh. She tries to run, but Ben easily overpowers her, dragging her into a dark corner. He leans in close, asking in a soft, disturbed voice if she thinks he really has a problem. Terrified and trying to play into his psychology, Sasha whispers that she thinks a lot of people hurt him in the past, and she is sorry for what happened to him. Ben simply smiles. He reaches into his mouth and pulls out a set of fake, normal-looking dentures. Revealing his real teeth, they have all been violently filed down into sharp, jagged, animalistic points. He grabs her hand, placing her trembling fingers inside his mouth against his razor-sharp teeth, but then strangely lets her go and runs off into the dark. Sasha quickly scans the room, spotting a shrine dedicated to Ben's mother. Ben suddenly returns, aggressively dragging Sasha toward a heavy wooden beam to hang her by her bound hands. Leaving her feet barely touching the ground, he begins stirring a foul-smelling liquid in a pot, claiming it is part of the final ritual. Desperate to survive, Sasha brings up the picture of his mother, telling Ben he looks exactly like her. The psychological manipulation works. Ben smiles. Completely lowering his guard, he approaches the hanging Sasha, whispering that his mother was special, just like Sasha, and revealing a horrifying truth: his mother was the very first person he ever murdered. He wraps his arms around Sasha, hugging her tightly. Instantly, Sasha wraps her strong climber's legs around his neck. She violently bites down on his ear, tearing the flesh until he bleeds. Ben screams in agonizing pain, thrashing wildly to force her off. The violent struggle causes the old wooden beam holding Sasha to snap. Sasha crashes to the ground. Ben grabs her by her torn shirt, but she slips out of it and sprints toward the underground river. Ben chases after her, managing to grab the heavy chain attached to her waist. They both plunge into the dark. Rushing water, tumbling down a steep subterranean waterfall, Ben's head violently strikes a submerged rock, knocking him unconscious. Sasha's chain becomes tightly snagged on a submerged tree log, trapping her underwater. Lungs burning, she frantically struggles to untangle the chain. She finally frees herself, bursting to the surface, gasping for air. She drags the unconscious Ben onto the rocky shore. Grabbing a heavy stone, she desperately tries to smash the metal chain connecting them, but it won't break. Suddenly, Ben's eyes snap open. Sasha immediately lunges, forcing his face back down into the water to drown him. But Ben's brute strength is too much. He violently pushes her off. Sasha scrambles for a rock, but Ben uses the chain to violently yank her toward him. He overpowers her, pinning her to the ground and wraps his massive hands around her throat. Sasha gurgles, helplessly thrashing as her vision begins to fade. But at the very last second, Ben's warped mind hallucinates. He sees his mother's face superimposing over Sasha's. He stops strangling her and reaches out to gently caress her cheek. Sasha doesn't hesitate. She delivers a devastating punch directly to his face, grabbing a heavy rock and mercilessly smashing it into his leg over and over again. Ben screams, violently slapping her away, and crawls backward into the dirt. Sasha lies on the sand, her nose bleeding heavily, while Ben cuts away his trousers, revealing that Sasha has completely shattered his leg bone. Evening falls over the canyon. Both of them are lying on the sand, entirely exhausted and broken. Staring at the monster, Sasha casually notes that he must have a hell of a dentist, darkly asking if he ate him too. She then asks if he gets depressed living in the dark. Knowing she might not survive the night, Sasha finally confesses her darkest secret to the killer. She admits that when Tommy fell on the mountain, he was pulling both of them down. She didn't lose her grip, she intentionally let go of the rope to save herself. She confesses that she ignored Tommy's warnings because she didn't even want to be there anymore. Ben listens to her dark confession in absolute silence. The next morning, Sasha stares up at the massive, towering rock wall surrounding their location. She looks over at Ben. His shattered leg is already severely infected and rotting. She asks how far the road is through the jungle path. Ben groans that it's a grueling 12-day walk. Sasha realizes her only way out is straight up the sheer cliff face. She tells Ben they either climb the wall right now, or she sits and waits for the infection to slowly and painfully kill him. Sasha approaches him. Ben aggressively holds his hunting knife out, but Sasha calmly tells him she needs the knife to stabilize his shattered leg. She tells him she's going to build a makeshift harness and pull him up the cliff with her. She demands he remove her handcuffs. Ben agrees, but warns her that he will only unlock them once they are on the wall. Sasha expertly splints his leg and fashions a harness. Ben looks her dead in the eye, promising that if she tries to drop him, he will pull her right off the wall with him. He finally unlocks her cuffs, but keeps them tied together by the heavy climbing rope. They begin the agonizing, slow ascent up the sheer rock face. After climbing significantly higher, Sasha realizes she is temporarily out of Ben's line of sight. She quickly tries to untie the rope connecting them, but Ben notices the slack, yanking the rope hard and nearly pulling her off the wall. Sasha regains her grip and continues climbing. From below, Ben cruelly taunts her, asking if Tommy looked like he was flying when she dropped him. Sasha ignores the psychological warfare. She finally crests the top of the cliff, pulling herself over the safety of the ledge. Once she is completely out of Ben's view, Sasha takes the heavy rope attached to Ben's harness and ties it securely around a thick tree trunk. Ben, dangling helplessly in the air, realizes she has stopped pulling. He screams furiously, violently jerking the rope to threaten her. But his aggressive pulling only causes Sasha's slipknot on the tree to rapidly unravel. Sasha stands up and looks over the edge as the knot completely gives way. Ben falls, plummeting down the massive gorge to his brutal, fatal demise, meeting the exact same fate as Tommy. With the killer dead, Sasha must now scale the final massive rock formation entirely free solo, without any ropes or safety gear. With her bare, bloody hands and wounded feet, she pushes herself to the absolute limit. Her foot slips once, leaving her dangling terrifyingly by her fingertips over the abyss. But drawing on her immense survival instinct, she forces herself upward, finally collapsing over the edge in a long, exhausted sigh of relief. That evening, as a battered and bloody Sasha limps down a dirt road, a passing car spots her. They rush her to the forest ranger station. She immediately informs the authorities about the exact location of Ben's subterranean slaughterhouse. A massive police and rescue operation is launched. The horrific news spreads across the nation. The missing hikers, who were presumed lost to the harsh wilderness, were actually the prey of a deranged, cannibalistic serial killer. In the final scene, Sasha turns off the news broadcast in her hotel room and walks down to a quiet, peaceful beach. She holds Tommy's compass tightly in her hand, finding closure for her guilt and her trauma. She gently kisses the compass and throws it far out into the crashing ocean waves. Finally, free from her past and the horrors of the jungle, Sasha sits quietly on the sand, watching the horizon in absolute peace. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy the recaps, PLS, like and subscribe. See you in the next recap.